Just kind of identify myself as an American. Obviously, I know that I am Asian, and on any sort of sheet that I have to fill out, I fill in the Asian Pacific Islander, but it doesn't really define who I am as a person. I guess as I grew older, I never really questioned it. I always knew that I was different, like I knew that my parents were both white, and my sister and I looked very different, and I eventually had asked about it, just like to kind of get a little bit more of a broad knowledge. And they explained to me that they adopted me and my sister, and we weren't biologically brother and sister. She was from a different part of Korea. But I don't know, it never really fazed me like it would maybe some other people.
Do you know what part of Korea that you
I was born in Seoul.
Oh.
All I know is the father was not listed on any sort of adoption papers, and the mom was very young. I believe she was in her early 20s, and she was roughly about my mom's height, which is about 5'6", and that's really all that they've told me, and that's what I've been satisfied with to this day. We have family friends that are from Korea, and they always offered whenever I wanted to go back that they would take me back, which would give me the more of the resident of Korea kind of look. And so I thought that that would be pretty interesting, and so hopefully I'm doing that within the next few years. I know that there are records with the adoption agency, but being able to find them and what the process is, I don't really know or how to go about that at this point. So I don't know if it's available to me, then I don't see why I wouldn't do it. But if it doesn't, then it's not like a lifelong burning passion for me. I mean, I don't know what it would be like to be raised by Korean parents. So I would say that my childhood and the way that I was raised was, I really can't complain about the way that I was raised. Obviously, I believe that I was raised in a better situation than I would have been if I was born to my birth mother in Korea, which I'm very thankful for. And that's something that I definitely don't take for granted on a daily basis. My mom learned how to cook a few Korean dishes. She took a few classes, which was pretty interesting. We have a few Korean friends, which I would talk to them, but there was really not a lot of Korean influence, I guess you could say, into my life. I kind of picked and choose what I wanted to know and what I wanted to learn.
Do you know what sort? Do you remember what dishes your mom learned?
So she learned the Korean short ribs. She learned how to make kimchi, and then the beef, the grilled beef on the lettuce wraps, and I forget the name of the dish that's in the bowl with the rice on the bottom.
Bibimbap.
Yeah, bibimbap. So I've had all of that, and so we go to a place in West Hartford that's good Korean food, so we enjoy doing that. So it's nice to kind of experience the culture a little bit through food, because that's kind of my closest connection, I guess you could say, I have. Took Italian classes as a kid. My papa, he spoke fluent Italian, and he wanted me to kind of be immersed into that because a lot of the family speaks Italian. And I took a few classes with him, and I was starting to pick up on it, and then I just kind of lost interest in it. To be honest, like, I don't know how much access I would have had to like Korean teachings or classes like that. Maybe if it was more available to me, if I was in a more of a diverse town compared to Cheshire, then I might have had an interest in it. But I think that as technology gets better, there's less of a need to kind of learn a language, because I think that there'll be technology that'll allow the translation process to just be a lot easier. So it's not really a burning desire of mine.
Did people, you think, treat you any differently because you were an adoptee, you think?
My mom and I actually talked about it. She said that there were some people that would like ask questions to her, and I guess at that age I wasn't really aware of it. It didn't really bother me, whatever comments were made. I just I didn't take offense to it. I try not to. There's no point getting angry. Just kind of go with the flow. I like to make jokes. I can take a joke, I'm not one to get offended easily by racist comments. And I accept my parents for who they are, and then they accept me for who I am. Like, people would say, like, oh, like, is this your son? Like, being confused, seeing my parents, or seeing my sister and I, and then my parents together. But I feel like adoption is becoming more accepted in today's age. So you're seeing a lot of different gender or different ethnic families. So I don't really know. There's one funny story. We were in Newport, and my sister and I had gone down to the beach, and my parents had parked the car previously, and then there was a security attendant on watching the lot, and so my sister and I went over to the car to kind of get changed, and the guy came over and he started to question us about kind of what we're doing. Like, he thought that we were stealing the car, but we were eating sandwiches in the back of the car, and my sister was drying her hair, so I kind of had to catch on to what he was putting down. And then once I did, I was like, listen, like, I'm not, like, we're not stealing the car. Like, if you want me to call over my parents, I'll call over my parents. But that's really it. To be honest, I really didn't receive a lot of questions about my ethnicity. Just kind of accepted me as Ethan compared to defining me by my race. I mean, I didn't run into any problems. And even if I did, I might have overlooked them. I'm not really one to try to look for problems. I just try to make the best out of everything that's kind of been given to me. I read an article somewhere on Facebook, and it kind of bothered me. It was about how Asian Americans are like, they're being oppressed in Hollywood, how they have the least amount of roles. And so I watched the video, and it just kind of sounded like, oh, like, poor me, like, I'm Asian in the Hollywood district, I can't get a job. So it kind of frustrated me in the sense that, well, you're letting yourself be defined by, like, your race as being Korean. Like, if that was me in that situation, I would still want to go after every single opportunity that was given to me and kind of use that as motivation to excel instead of having it hold me down. I don't know, I do still feel a connection to being Korean, I guess you could say, but I don't think it's one of my, like, defining characteristics. Like, it's not something that, like, I look at and I see as a problem. Like, I'm not thinking in my head as I'm going to the movies and I'm watching previews, and I'm not saying, wow, I didn't see one Asian main character. And if someone, like, brings up a point, like that argument to me, it's just like it doesn't really affect me, I guess you could say. Yeah, I always feel like you control what you do, and you should always, like, the feeling of helplessness I really don't like, and so I will do anything in my power to kind of control what I can control and be able to do things where I don't feel helpless. Like, I played Division I baseball at Sacred Heart University, and some people would say, oh, like you're like the Asian one on the so-and-so team. And I'm like, yeah, like, it doesn't bother me. Like, that's what made me stand out, made people remember me. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, it doesn't make me feel singled out or anything. I mean, it was kind of a good thing because they would remember me. And I was always good enough to be remembered, I guess you could say. To be honest, I haven't had a lot of interaction. I've had interactions with other adopted Asians who I've had good relationships with, who I went to school with, and we became friends. It has felt like a little bit of a divide because the Asians that I've come into contact with are Chinese, and I think that there is a difference. I know that the stereotype is that you guys all look the same, but I think you can really see feel like an ethnic division almost between Asian or Korean, Japanese, Chinese, and then Taiwanese people.
What sort of division would you say, like, is?
Well, I think the first
in terms of who people hang out with? Or?
No, it's just like, I think that the Japanese people are a little bit more reserved. I think that you can look at them and you can, like, I can look at someone and say, oh, like, I think that you're Japanese, or someone looks Korean, someone looks Chinese. I think that, I don't know, Koreans are the most outgoing. That's the kind of the interactions that I've had with the people. It seems like Chinese are very homogeneous people, like, they like to hang out with themselves, and don't really expand, like, their horizons almost to other sort of friend groups. I mean, I've only had good experiences with people that were adopted from Korea. I mean, granted, it's a small sample size. I probably have about 5 or 6. But I don't see why it would almost be like a bad thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's much different, to be honest with you. As long as you're open to it, like I was very open to it. Like I didn't really resent my parents for not birthing me. I was very thankful that they did adopt me. It's kind of shifted into my political views of being pro-life, and it's gotten me into a lot of discussions about why I am pro-life over pro-choice. But I think it's being an adoptee has kind of shaped me in that sense, but as a whole kind of a person, I don't think it's made that much of an impact. Like I don't introduce myself, hi, I'm Ethan Lauderdale, adoptee.
Yeah.
If someone wants to talk about it, I'm very open, obviously. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really, I don't really have any negatives, definitely. I can only say positive things about it. Well, I always believed, and I may be wrong, but my mom gave up the choice and she gave birth to me and she put me up for adoption. Kind of showed the love and compassion, I guess, for me, and knowing that I wouldn't be in a good situation that she would have for me, she tried to give me a better life. Now I don't know what the circumstances of why I was brought to earth, but that's just kind of the views that I have, and some people argue with me from night till day about it, but you're not going to change kind of the way that I feel about it. I feel very strongly that, you know, everything kind of happens for a reason, and like I may be the product of a rape in Korea, but I think that I've turned out to be a pretty decent individual. So, I don't know, just the way that I've always felt.
So does this sort of impact the way you sort of view political culture in the United States?
I would just say that issue. Yeah, I don't think being adoptee is kind of, it's only impacted like the one kind of issue.
I think to sort of go a little broader, I know that Donald Trump has been criticized because he's like sort of made what comments some people have described as like racist against Asians or Asian Americans, like sort of adopted sort of fake Asian accents and he's been speaking, or other sort of comments that have turned out untrue about China or Korea. Does this sort of impact your view of the president, or?
No. I mean, being a political science major, I've always kind of learned to look into something that interests me instead of just reading the headlines, and I think that a lot of people take things out of context, so the news provides us with out of context information, like pieces of different speeches that are being taken out and kind of given to us broken up instead of getting the whole picture. I think that that's a big role, and kind of the whole connotation of the media nowadays, I believe, is very negatively driven. That's what kind of gets the views. People want to hear, for some reason, I don't know, the negative kind of impacts, like all of the political campaigns. It's all about bashing the other candidate. It's not about what you're doing. And so I don't really like to look at someone through the news in what they say. I know that people will definitely disagree with me and still call him a racist. But I mean, it's like not my defining connotation of the president as being a racist. Like I wouldn't judge anyone by just a few comments that they make. I would like to kind of, almost like my interactions with them, and just like kind of see like all the good that kind of people have done compared to the bad. And then no one's perfect. We're all gonna make mistakes. I completely understand that. Like I've definitely made mistakes myself, and it's kind of hard to hold something against someone when it's happened years ago, and when the spotlight is always on you, it's tough to always perform. Like I think that people, and then once someone does make that little mistake, then it's kind of jumped on, it's made into different memes and everything, and it's taken way out of context when the true meaning might actually be genuine and not actually of bad intent. Like I think that a lot of people try to make others into evil individuals when maybe it was just like a mistake of a word or something.
Yeah, it's a question that I've asked because I think Trump very famously, like, on the campaign trail, did, like, specifically sort of use, like, a fake Japanese accent, so when he was like trying to mimic how negotiations would go, and I think that was like a turning point in a lot of like Asian American blogs or social media accounts and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, I've seen it, to be honest with you, but I mean, it's like I'm not just gonna look at one person for one thing that they did. Like I need to look at a whole bunch of things and kind of weigh the pros and cons. Like if people were just to look at me and say, "Oh, he's Asian, he's not like us," then I wouldn't want people to view me just as that. So it's kind of on me to view people more as a holistic kind of a person. I've always enjoyed the feeling of being on a team. Kind of brings you together. You spend a lot of time with them. Like I spend more time with them in my 4 years at Sacred Heart than I did with my family. I wouldn't say that anyone kind of singled me out because I was Asian. Obviously, jokes are made, but jokes are made for everyone. You just got to go with it, you know. Kind of just embrace it instead of getting angry with it.